Welcome back to Suffocating in Suburbia, and I want to tell you something about my guest today. Back in 1975, I was barely on Long Island for a couple of years, a little bit lost from Brooklyn to Long Island. It was like, suffocating. And I had my buddy Jim from school, from high school, Mad Jim, and he said, "Hey, there's a record store over there. Let's go in." And he had just introduced me to music. I was like a kid playing baseball, and I just learned about Led Zeppelin, Deep Purple, Alice Cooper. So we go to this little record store, and we walk in, and there's this lunatic little skinny guy, kind of like a Mick Jagger looking guy, jumping up and down and saying, "This album is incredible." It was Kiss Alive. Now, I was never a big Kiss fan, but since he said it was incredible, I bought it right away. So, because this is the story about this
You
guy.
fool.
That was Record Stop in East Islip, and he later moved to Ronkonkoma. And let me tell you something. Jim Nipo could sell sand in a desert. This guy was the best salesman. Every album he recommended, I bought, and I loved it. He introduced me to Bowie and the Ramones, and basically you were the dealer of my rock and roll addiction. That's what I like to say. So here he is, all the way from Florida, the one and only, the legendary Nipo. How's that?
That was pretty good. I'm impressed. I don't think I can live up to it, but I'm
Oh,
impressed.
believe me, you do. You do live up to it, man. I remember
Thank you, Steve.
Thursday nights, we would go to Record
Oh my
Stop,
God. Yes.
run to that wall of 45s. I bought
Yep.
every stiff single.
Yep.
It was an amazing time. And don't you feel like we knew it was an amazing time?
It was an amazing time.
Yeah.
Yeah, at least it was for me. People say, "Oh, the '70s they sucked," but people think of the '60s, but they missed out. If you thought the '70s sucked, you missed out. You
You were
missed out on
listening
that
to the wrong
whole.
stuff.
Oh, well, you missed out on the whole glam period, which moved into the punk period. It
Yeah.
was an amazing. There was just so much energy.
Yeah.
There's so much energy,
And
and that's what was great
creativity.
about it. Yes,
So tell me a
yes.
little bit, how did you start? I mean, Record Stop in East Islip, that was around 75. Was that when it opened?
Around that, probably around 70. Yeah, about 74, 75. Yeah,
Yeah.
around that.
I strictly remember, there's one memory, and you're going to laugh, and I know you remember it. I might have been only the second or third time I was there, and somebody came in the front door on a
On a
horse
horse.
and asked
I knew
for
you were going to mention that.
Rhinestone Cowboy, I think.
Yes, yes. He rode in on a horse, and he asked for Rhinestone Cowboy. And I looked at him, and I turned around. And I said, I do have it, but if your horse craps in my store, you're the one that's cleaning it up.
But the way you said "I do have it" was like it was an everyday occurrence that a guy came
Yeah.
in on a horse.
Well, Record Stop was unique.
Very unique.
It, I can't describe it. I think you described it the best when you called it imports and misfits,
Outcasts.
outcasts.
That
But
was that's the time I was going to talk about this because I've been trying to write a book and I still want to do it. And it's called Record Stop Imports and Outcasts because that's kind
you
of
know,
like in and out.
well, I was a misfit. I was an outcast.
Me too.
And growing up as a kid, in order for me to talk a little bit about Record Stop, I got to tell you a little bit about me.
Go back.
Which,
Go back in time. I love
well,
it.
just I was a stupid kid, comic books. When I was growing up, I loved Famous Monsters of Filmland magazine and comic books, especially Marvel. And as I was growing up, I had a few friends, very few friends, because again, like I said, I was that kid that nobody wanted to play with. That kid's a little weird, even as a child.
Yeah.
And I came across two other weirdos in fourth grade. One was Drew Tyler, who had a farm, almost a chicken farm type thing. And he would sell chickens and eggs and stuff like this around.
This was on Long Island? You grew up
This
on
is
Long
on
Island?
Long Island. I was born in the Bronx,
Okay.
and I moved out to Long Island just like you did. And so going into public school, you kind of every school has its misfit or its outcast, and I was one of them. And you kind of hung out together.
Right.
So Drew Tyler was one, and another one was Gavin Roth. His actual name is Peter Gavin Roth, but Gavin was a little bit more interesting. When I don't nothing to take away from Drew, we were great friends, but what what I saw in Gavin, he one day he was drawing, and he was an amazing artist. I was going, in fourth grade, how can this kid do this? How can this kid do this? And we became friends over drawing. We started doodling and stuff like that. And it turns out that Gavin's father drew comic strips and comic books. His father was Warner Roth, who drew the X-Men, starting with issue 2, right
Wow.
after Jack Kirby. Uh, you know, Kirby was drawing so many books back then that he would do things like this and draw covers, and other artists would take over. And Warner Roth took over the X-Men. So I was lucky enough to go over his house, and I met some of the greatest artists, man. I met Jack Kirby,
Wow.
and all these other. And as a kid, I was like, "Holy smoke, man, that's great!" And the three of us hung out. We would go, try. Let's see if we can pick up some beer, get some beer. We'll have somebody buy us some beer as we get in our early teen years.
I was going to say, in fourth grade, you were buying beer. That
Oh
seems
no,
like
no,
you. That
this was
sounds
on. I
like you.
mean, Gavin was the guy that gave me my nickname, which at the time I was not very happy about.
It was when you came out of the water and your nipples were hard.
That is it.
I remember it.
Yes, you got it. And it just stuck. I said, okay, what are you going to do? So I wore it like a badge of honor, and I still do. And Gavin and Drew and I, we would go to comic book conventions. They weren't called conventions back then. They were called comic art conventions. A little different, because it wasn't cool to read comics back then. It just was not. And we got to meet the artists back then and all this stuff. And Gavin taught me a lot about artwork and stuff like that. And we were getting into records and stuff. And Gavin loved Electro Records. And the reason he loved Electro Records was because of the, I'm trying to remember his name, William S. Harvey. He was the art director.
Oh.
And he found all his artwork incredible. And William S. Harvey is the guy that did The Doors, the Stooges covers, Love, all these. And so we would hit up on these. It's like, okay, Gavin likes this, I'm going to like this too. And we started finding out. And of course, when we heard the Stooges, it was like, oh my God, And so we were into some bizarre stuff. David Peel on the Lower East Side.
Wow.
And I used to go into the city. We used to take the subway, not the subway, the train, Long Island Railroad. They had a $3 weekend excursion. And I had a friend that lived in the Village. So I would go there on the weekends and stuff like that. We'd go to Washington Square Park. And I met David Peel on the Lower East Side there. They would always play.
Yeah.
And these were the first rock stars I ever met. I mean, they had albums out. And they would talk to you. Him and Howard C. Black. Howard, if you see this, man, I'm mentioning you. They were the guys that inspired me, that turned around. It's like, wow, these rock guys. And these are like, really, actually, they're like almost like the first punks. I mean, let's face it.
Yeah.
Those guys, if you listen to this stuff today, it's very punky. And along with Iggy, of course.
Iggy, yeah.
And so that was what got my interest up. And I just started listening to all this weird music. I mean, Pink Floyd, before Pink Floyd, no one knew who they were. I saw them at Stony Brook in a college gymnasium.
Wow.
Twice. And the first time I went, I got 6-row seats. There was nobody there.
Now, was this the Syd Barrett days?
No, Sid had just left.
Okay.
He had just left. They did one tour, I think, in the States with Sid. And after that, they went on their own. But there was just nobody there. I had to come up with $20 because I didn't have a car then. And somebody came looking for a friend of mine and knocked on my door, and they had a car, and there was 3 of them. I go, look, take me to the show. I'll get the money out. You come, I'll buy your tickets. And that's what I did. I had to borrow $20 off my crazy uncle, who actually gave it to me. Because back then, $20 was a hell of a lot of money.
Yeah, that's like 10 tickets, like 5 tickets at least.
Yeah. And then they wanted to leave before the show was over. I go, no, man, I paid for this just ended. And I did get to see the whole show.
Well, that wasn't for Pink Floyd in their early days was not for everybody. I mean, astronomy dominant and like
no.
really weird stuff. Careful with
That's
that
what they started out with
oxygen.
that night. And that's what they started out with.
Yeah. That's my
Yeah.
favorite period of Pink Floyd. I think
Yeah.
everything up to metal I love, and then they
I
kind of
love
got
metal.
commercial.
You know, even
Metal was
Dark
great.
Side I like too, because it was
Yeah, it
just
just got a little overplayed, but
yes, yeah, oh definitely.
yeah.
4 or 5 years on the top 100, was it, or
Oh,
on the Billboard
probably
charts? Like
probably
nuts.
20 years on the top
Oh my
100. I don't know.
gosh.
It's
Just kept
insane.
on going.
Yeah, well, that's great.
And
I know you were a Hendrix fan too. You were a big
oh
Hendrix
yes, I
fan.
got to
Yeah.
see him twice. I got to see him
Wow.
once with the Experience, and
Wow.
once I just happened to be in the right place at the right time. I was in Central Park, and he played that, the band shell there. He just came
Wow.
out, and some guy turned around, hey, we've got somebody here that wants to play. And he came out, I didn't even know the name of the band at this point. He had conga drums players and everything like that. It was just bizarre. It was different, so totally
Wow.
different. It was just experimenting. And I was like, well, blown away. So
Did you see the Doors? Did you ever get to see the Doors?
no, I never got to see the Doors.
Uh-huh.
I never got to see the Doors. I got 3 of their autographs, but not Jim's.
Oh.
But like,
We should talk about that too. All the memorabilia you must have picked up over the years.
yeah, I got a lot.
I'm sure.
I joke about it.
Go ahead.
Good.
No, you had a joke? Would you joke?
No, I said I have a joke about it. But all the people I've met, I turned around and said, I met everybody from Hanson to Manson.
You didn't meet Manson.
No, I didn't. No,
I know you met Frank Zappa. That was a weird story.
Zappa I met. I did meet Hanson. My daughter was a big Hanson fan. And,
I like Hanson. They did
believe it or not,
they do great cover songs. They did like a Traffic. Was it Traffic?
Yeah.
Mr. Fantasy? Do you Mr. Fantasy?
I took my daughter to see them. I got her backstage passes.
Really?
She didn't know it at the time.
Oh.
And I got her these great seats. And she got the backstage passes, and it was so freaking loud. It was like seeing Beatlemania.
Wow.
My ears hurt. Me and my wife Iris, we took them. But all of a sudden, they started playing all these great songs. I'm like, oh my God, how do these guys know these?
Yeah.
And I've seen them now probably about 6-7 times.
Wow.
And because I was taking her, and she kind of knows the band now, which is kind of fun.
It's like fun.
But they were incredible. A lot of people just don't give them the credit.
Oh, well, Bop, and then next thing you know, they're teeny boppers. And I'm sure that probably frustrates the hell out of them because they're so much more talented and deep musically than that. But I've seen them on YouTube doing some cover songs. I was like, wow, these guys are really, really good. So I'm not surprised that you like Hanson. I think they're great.
Yeah.
But
they were great. It was a good band.
What I loved is like you turned me on to music I never would have listened to. I mean, I was listening, like I said, Deep Purple, Black Sabbath, the usual teenage angst stuff that everybody was listening to. And I still love those bands. But, Bowie scared me because I remember seeing like in Circus Magazine, this guy dressed up like a woman. I was like, oh my God, what is this? And Mad Jim, who recently passed away, unfortunately. And he was like kind of like a little afraid of Bowie. And then you said you got to listen to Ziggy Stardust. And then I got that album, and that was it.
That was it.
And actually, my favorite Bowie album is probably Space Oddity. I just love that one. Wild Eyed Boy from Free Cloud, and just
great song.
Isn't that amazing?
I think a lot of people were afraid of Bowie.
Yeah.
I mean, he challenged the norm, and that scared the hell out of everybody.
There was nothing like that back then. 70.
I know. I was. I got hated because they're like Bowie. Oh, you're a faggot. You're this. You're that.
Yeah.
And it's like incredible. So all the crap that I put up with back then, and when he passed away, everybody came out of it, including people that I knew hated him at the time. I was like, you son of a bitch. It's like
well, you recognized early on. That's what I loved about you. Is like when I go into record stop, it's like you knew what was it. Like the Ramones. I remember I went in there and you said, Steve, you got to listen to these guys. I think they're robots. They're all the name's Ramone. Every song sounds the same. And I was like, why would I listen to that? And it was like 1, 2, 3. That was it from Bleach Creek Bop. My life changed. It was an amazing revelation.
Bringing that stuff into Record Stop was not a challenge. Thank goodness Bruce, who's the owner, Bruce Berg, he's the owner, allowed me to bring some of the stuff in. I first
Mm.
met Bruce through another party. This guy, his name was Pat Toronto. He's dead now.
I
We
know
used to
that
call him
name.
yeah, I think you may have
Oh, is
met
he
him.
the drug guy? Is he the guy who took all the drugs?
Yes,
The
yes,
Batman.
the Batman. That's him.
Yes.
Boom, you got it. He turned me on to so much stuff. He turned me on to T-Rex way before he made it. Uh, what is it? Something White Stars, Wizard and White Stars. I forgot what the name of
White
that album.
Swan. White Swan.
No, that's Ride of White Swan was before that.
Oh,
And I got turned on by the T-Rex album on Blue Thumb Records. It was called T-Rex. There was an album before that,
wow.
Beard of Stars. Beard of Stars. That was the
Oh,
name of the album. And he turned me on to that. Pat had so much music. And the reason had so much music, he must have had like 3,000 albums.
wow.
He would go into EJ Corvettes and steal 25 albums at one time. I swear to God.
He would steal.
He would steal them. He'd get what he wanted, put them together, and walk in with his big jacket. He shoved his hands in his pockets, put the jacket over it, hold them, and walk right out the friggin'
Holy
front door.
shit. That's amazing.
And then he would call me, "Hey man, I got some new records today." I'm like, he's opening up all these albums. And he's like,
Oh, man.
he was crazy. And drugs. Oh my
Yeah,
God.
a lot of drugs.
Yeah. He told me once he was mainlining speed in a closet for a week. I don't know if that's true or
Oh,
not.
my God.
But I used to turn around and say, this guy could probably mainline Drano and walk away.
Oh, my God. He's not alive anymore, is he?
No, he died of brain cancer.
Yeah,
Go
well,
figure, boys and girls.
yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. The other thing that I loved about Record Stop is there were all the collectors. I was a Kinks guy. They called me Kinky Steve because I had to make sure I got everything by the Kinks.
See, and you wear that name, that buff with a badge of honor, don't you, though?
Of course I do, Kinky Steve. But I got Stevie GB from CBGB. Right. That was somebody else gave me that name, and I picked that one better. In high school, I was called Turkey because my last name Gianturco. I didn't like that one. But anyway, but I loved that there were collectors. There was one guy, I don't remember his name, it was like Elton John. He came in all the time looking for Elton John stuff.
Oh, yes, I remember him.
Dave
Hart.
Is that his name? Hart. I remember him. There was another guy that was into Elvis Presley. Like he had to have everything Elvis Presley. I don't remember his name, but it was like weird things that you wouldn't expect. Yeah. Like, and I was the Kings guy. And of course, I got to talk about Bill Kern, who, my God, what a horrible story that is.
Yeah,
Beatle Bill. He had 45s that John Lennon was jealous that he had, from what I heard.
Yeah.
And he got murdered. He got shot at his.
He got murdered. There's a Weird Death Records connection, which not to his murder, but we'll start with Bill. Bill didn't drive, and the way I heard the story, he called somebody, one of his friends, up, and to take him to like Burger King or something like that, and he went with him, and he never came home. And they were opening up. He had a video store. They were opening up the store the next day. And when they came in, they tried to get into the office. They had to push the door open, physically push the door open, and they found him tied to a chair, beaten to death.
Oh my God!
Which, horrible. And I don't think they ever caught the person that did it.
So they were just robbing the video store, and he just.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of speculation that the person that picked him up was the person that murdered him, but no one knows who picked him up. That's the problem.
Wow.
And the connection is that Gavin Roth, he was the guy that designed the Death Records label, and we would go over different things together. And the Barry Knodel single, "Baby Don't Give Up,"
I have it on red vinyl.
Okay, that single gave me a lot of grief because everybody, when they first heard it, because I fell in love with this song. I said, this is a great power pop song, man.
Yeah.
This is a great, I always had like a little ear for certain bands and stuff like that.
Oh, you certainly did.
And I went to Barry, I said, I want to put this out, man. And I stuck by my guns, and I got hell hell for it. This ain't punk. This ain't punk.
Oh
I said,
yeah.
death
All the
wasn't really
snobs.
just wasn't just made to be punk. It was something that's like it was like my little hobby I wanted to do. So I got a lot of grief for it. So people going, it's not going to sell. It's not going to sell. And people were putting like a little bit of doubt in my head. And I said, you know what? I'm going to come up with a package that's going to sell this record. So I went to Gavin. I go, Gavin, here's an idea that I have. And he said, yeah, that's a good idea. And he fine tuned it, man, where he made it his own. And it was such a beautiful cover that I got even written up in Billboard magazine for it,
Wow.
which was the cover is hard to explain. It was a clear plastic sleeve. And then there was a phonetic typing of Barry's last name on the front. And that only came up like a quarter of the front of the record. So you could see the red vinyl record.
Right.
And on the back was this girl crying and stuff like this, this cartoon girl. And it sold a record. And later on, what was the name of the book? Shake Some Action, the ultimate power pop guide. It was a book, and it named it one of the top 15 independent power pop singles of all time.
Wow. Was that
So
Baby Don't Give Up? Baby Don't Give Up? Was that the name
Yep.
of the song? I
Yeah,
remember.
Baby Don't Give Up. And so I'm kind of proud of that, and it's
Yeah.
like, for all the people that turned around and said, this ain't going to sell, I made the right decision with it.
Wow. Wow.
But Gavin had moved to California, and he too was murdered
Oh my God.
over $100 lottery ticket. Someone came up. Yeah, I've seen the videos from the store that he bought it, where he's cashing it in, and I watch it and I think, 5 minutes later, my buddy here is going to be dead.
Oh.
And I don't want to get emotional because Gavin and I went way back, and he was like a brother. And he went out to his car, and some 16-year-old kid came up and put a gun to his head, took the money, and then pulled the trigger.
Oh my God.
Okay, so it's kind of funny that the two of them kind of mashed inside that one record. The record was reissued by Afrodisc Records about 3 years ago. They came to me and they loved the song too, and they wanted to use the artwork and things like that. Barry still had the rights to the song, of course. And I turned around, yeah, but I want this done right. And they did an absolutely beautiful job on the record using Gavin's original artwork and stuff like that. Came out beautiful.
Wow.
So I'm kind of proud of that. Yeah.
And on this that's a horrible story. On this
Yeah,
broadcast,
no.
I'll put the website so people, if they want to buy it, they want to buy that record, they can buy it. So Death Records, that was a phenomenal thing. Yeah, of course, you had Jimmy LaLumia and the Psychotic Frogs, Death the Disco. How is Jimmy? Is he still around?
Jimmy's still doing great. Yes,
Yeah.
I just put out one of his singles. I'm not sure if you're aware of that.
Oh, okay.
With Jane County.
Oh, I think you sent me that.
I
I
think
have
I
it.
sent you that.
Yes,
I
you
believe
did.
I did. Yeah, Jimmy's still around. He's actually Jane County's manager.
Oh, wow.
And they did a single together, and Jimmy came to me and said, hey, you want to do this? And it's like, and I just turned around and said, I got to put out a Jane County single. And it's like, come on. It's like, so I did. Jimmy I've known since first grade.
Wow.
We met in first and second. We lost track of one another. And he was another person who got me into music. Yeah, and we met at this, down the street from me, there was a hippie commune at the time. And once a year, they throw these crazy parties. The place was called Fort Schuyler. So we met there and we got together, and I found out he was into T-Rex. And I turned around and Jimmy goes, oh, I have all these. I go, do you have the singles, the British singles? And Jimmy goes, what are you talking about? All these B-sides are unreleased. So I took him back to my house with Vinny and a few other guys, and I showed him all these British singles, and no one knew what the hell British singles were back then.
Right.
And I kind of turned them on. I say, I buy these in the city. And that's how my addiction started to collect. And I would go when I met Bruce. I met Bruce through, I met him through Pat, the Batman.
Right.
I was trying to get a fanzine together. So I went to Bruce, hey, you want to support me for a fanzine? And he turned me down. But we became friends. And then one day, I wasn't working for him at the time. I go, you can get some 45s, right? He goes, yeah. He says, well, I want a 45. He goes, well, what 45 do you want? I said, Rock and Roll With Me by David Bowie. And I want 5 copies. And he looked at me like it was nuts. What do you want 5 copies for? I said, well, the single's going to bomb, man. And there's an unreleased B-side. It's a live version of Panic in Detroit. I want 5 copies of it. He goes, well, but why? I said, because 3 months from now, that single's going to be gone. And I'll sell it for $5, $10, whatever. And he thought he was nuts. But he ordered me the 5 copies. And sure enough, I grabbed them. They were $1 a piece. I spent $5 for them. And I used to go in there to play Stratego with him.
Stratego.
Stratego, yeah. The store he used to sell these clock radios. Remember those little digital clocks where the thing would go down?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, I do.
30. So, he used to sell stuff like that. There were very few records in the store.
Yeah.
And then one day this kid comes walking in and he goes, hey, can you order me a 45? And he goes, sure, what do you want? He goes, I want the Rock and Roll With Me by David Bowie. And I looked at Bruce, said, sure, I can get that. I looked at Bruce and went,
you can't get it.
And sure enough, he couldn't get it. So he called the kid up, go, look, you can't get it. I turned around and tell the kid if he wants, we'll sell him one for $5.
Yeah.
The kid said, okay.
And that was it.
I paid $5, and Bruce turned around and goes, you want a job? And that's how I started working with Bruce.
That's funny. So you were the guy that was basically turning them on to all these rarities and things that you couldn't find anywhere else. And
well, I think it was a little bit more than that. The idea of collectibles. I started selling Beatle 45s and Beatle stuff at comic book conventions in Manhattan. That's how I used to make my money. I sold all my comics, and that's how I made money. And finally, I started getting into collecting Beatle paraphernalia, memorabilia, records, and then Bowie records. And to support my own habit, I started collecting more and more and more. And I'd search things in stores, in yard sales, flea markets, and I'd find this stuff. And I turned around and made a fortune with it. And finally, I turned around to Bruce, why don't you sell some Beatles stuff here? I know some stores in the city. We can bring in some Mexican EPs and stuff like that. And you put them on the wall and swear that they're going to go. And sure enough, they did. Yeah. And I saw that whole punk thing happening, man. Because we used to, me and Jimmy used to go to Max's Kansas City, Stevie's, when, you had to watch where you step because Hilly's dog would shit all over the place. And and we just saw it. We used to go see bands like Tough Darts, who I love, with Robert Gordon.
Tough Darts, yes.
Oh, man, and stuff like that. And I turned around and said, we got to bring this stuff in. So I brought in Little Johnny Jewel, Talking Heads. I got him in the city. I brought him in. Patti Smith's Fish Factory.
Yeah.
And that type of stuff. We started seeing these 45s being distributed in some of the New York stores. So I feel that we were the only people out there. We're 60 miles away.
You are.
And we started, I went to Bruce, this is going to happen. New York is going to explode, man. And we started bringing these independent singles, independent records in, and people started catching on to it.
Yeah.
The collectibles, we did the collectibles already, and now this. And it just, finally, it exploded.
It was an unbelievable explosion. I remember like Sire Records. Remember Sire Records was the Ramones?
Yes, of course. Oh,
and I was working at Record World, which was like a horrible situation because they were mainstream and they were selling. I was pushing Donna Summer and Meatloaf and Billy Joel, and I was yelling at people, "You should be buying Nick Lowe. What are you doing?" It was like I couldn't get them to come around. So thank God I had you, and I would go there and the explosion. You're right. I remember Sire Records on the same day. They released 3 albums, Talking Heads 77, Richard Hell and the Voidoids, and Ramones Rocket to Russia all came out on the same day. So I mean, that's how much it was just.
Yeah.
So it's funny because when you mentioned Epi, and Epi said the same thing back then. The demand for this music was so huge. And then they
Yep.
had WLAR was starting to pick up on it, and PIX, and the whole punk scene became really huge demand. But at the same time, it was hated. Like you said before about Bowie, people hated me that I liked that stuff. Oh, they can't play three chords, they suck. You know, it was
But
like,
that's what rock and roll is about. It's about
yes,
rebellion. It's
they
about,
brought the fun
you know,
back.
yes, exactly, exactly. And we saw that happening. And even before Sire picked up on it, we had those records inside our
Yes,
store.
you
And
did.
that's what made it special. And people would come in and it was different. I felt I was doing something. Like I was taking that music and
Yes.
bringing it into the suburbs.
It was like you were responsible for the scene exploding. It really felt that
Well,
way.
well, it sometimes felt like that
Yeah.
for us inside the store
Yeah.
because there was nothing around us. There was nothing there for
No,
almost 60 miles. We had
you're
people
right.
coming over from Connecticut. They would take the ferry and come over to go to our store. It
Wow.
was incredible. It was a very unique
I mean,
thing.
do you remember the Sex Pistols? Anarchy in the UK came out, and we were like salivating. When is the
I know.
album coming out? When is the album coming out? It was like they got knocked off EMI, and then they got knocked off A&M. It's like the album's got to come out. And I remember the excitement building. And looking back, it was probably only 3 months of waiting, but it felt like 3 years
Yeah.
because back then things were happening so fast. Like Elvis Costello, right? I mean, he came out with a single. Next thing you know, he had an album. Then he had like five more singles. And he had two more albums, all in the course of like 2 years.
Yeah. Yep.
So everything was moving so quickly, and it was all so creative, and everything was good. It's like
I think everybody was feeding off one another too.
everything was good.
It was just amazing.
Yeah,
And the early days of glam were kind of like that. When we
yeah,
go into the city, like the New York Dolls, man, it's like
yeah,
there was a bunch of bands. It's like the Dolls, and I was a big Dolls fan. I
yeah.
must have got to see those guys maybe 40, 50 times. And
Wow.
then when they split up, then I had to go see the Heartbreakers, Johnny Thunders, and
Right.
and that's the punk just spread, and that
Yeah.
stuff was the stuff that I picked up on, and I told Bruce, this is what we got to do, man. It's like, and
Yeah.
Bruce was like, yeah, let's do this.
Yeah.
I
Because he
mean, thank
saw how
God,
fast it was moving.
well, it didn't move that fast. It was first the collectibles to bring them in, and then all of
Right.
a sudden, when this started happening, click, 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 and it all started falling into
Right.
place.
Right.
Like, Bruce turns around and tells us a great story about when he ordered the Ramones album. He ordered a case of it, and the distributor called us back, and he goes, "Well, why do you want this? I don't even have a case in my warehouse. I may have like maybe 5, 10 copies." He goes, "Well, I want them all. You got to get me more. You got to get me this." And he goes, and he looked at the cover. The guy's talking to him on the phone. Who the hell are these guys? Why do you want this? And I had people salivating, like you say, in front of the counter. Where the hell is it,
Where's
man?
the Where's the new Stiff single?
Where's the record?
I'm here on Thursday. That's the day it comes out. Where is it? God damn it!
Yeah, it was unbelievable.
Oh,
It was
absolutely.
unbelievable.
I
And
used
plus,
to run to that wall, Jimmy Nipo. I used to run to that wall and make sure I could
yep,
get that because
yep,
we had one or two,
yep.
like Devo. Remember Devo came out, and you were like,
Yes.
"This is weird. I love it. Let me."
Well,
Without even listening to it, I would buy it. It's got a weird cover. I'm buying it.
it's like that. Well, that's sometimes was my reaction. I love the crazy artwork, all the stuff.
Yeah.
That was like anti-art. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Right.
Just
Right.
so bizarre. And all the imports. Sometimes we
Yeah.
would have to wait for the U.S. releases, and so we bring the stuff in from England, and they'd come out like a week to 2 weeks ahead of time.
Yeah.
And all the record stores would get pissed off at us. Oh, how come you got the Bowie album? Like, you're not supposed to put that out yet. We have the British copies, pal. Sorry.
And you really didn't have any competition. Would you have Looney Tunes and Lindenhurst was maybe the
But
closest, but
yeah,
they weren't the same.
and they started later than we did. By the
Yeah.
time they
Yeah.
got into what we were selling, we'd been selling it for like two years.
You were already in. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was the difference there. Plus, some of the people that came at it and into that store.
Yeah.
My God. One of my friends is Charles Pellegrino. You know who he is?
No.
He's a scientist. He's crazy, man. I used to talk with him, and people would go, "That guy's weird, man. Why are you talking to him?" I go, "He's not weird, man. He's just so smart. He's talking over your head."
Yeah.
Okay. Charles Pellegrino is the guy who came up with the idea of finding the DNA inside the amber in the bugs that started Jurassic Park.
No,
Yes.
you're kidding.
He, Michael Crichton even cites him at the end of the book because of his research. He was a customer inside the store. Good friend of mine. He works with James Cameron. He's been down to the Titanic.
Wow.
You know, it's just there's incredible people that pass through that store.
Now, what was his band of choice? I'm thinking Eno.
The Beatles.
The Beatles.
The
Okay.
Beatles.
That makes sense.
The Beatles. It was kind of funny. Do you remember Steve Martin? He was a kid, a little kid that would come up from Smithtown. He would ride his spike from Smithtown all the way to our store.
Yeah.
Do you remember him?
It sounds familiar.
Okay. This kid, he'd come in, he'd ride his bike, and I turn him on to all this music and stuff like that. And he came in once a week, just like you, like clockwork. Sometimes his parents would bring him up, and his father was an eye doctor, so and his mom would bring him into the store, and use record stop. It was like, don't go in the bathroom, don't go in the bathroom. But Steve was there, and I saw the spark in this kid, man. He was like, and he had a band. I think he was 13 years old, and I brought him down to Barry's studio. And I said, we're going to do a demo here. And we brought his friends, all his little kids. I think the oldest member of the band was a girl. I think she was the drummer. She was 14 years old. 14 years old. And Barry came up and he produced them with this thing, and the kids sang background. Came up with this great, I think it was a 4-track demo that was really good. And the parents going, "Holy smoke! I can't believe this is you!" It's like. And from there, he had the bug, and he joined a punk band called the FUs. And then the drummer died, and he did some touring with them. He was a little older now, of course, and he said, "Man, I never want to go to another rock and roll funeral. It was horrible. The people are just so messed up." And later he joined another band called Agnostic Front. Yeah, it'll get better. This story gets better. You're going to love this, Steve. And he toured with Agnostic Front for a while. And I lost track of him. I moved to Florida. I don't know where he went. And Agnostic Front played a club near here. And so I called the club up, and I actually got one of the members of the band on the phone. And I go, "Is Steve with you guys? I'd like to talk to him." And Steve had left. So I'm going, "Man, where am I going to find Steve? I can't find him." He goes, "Okay, and then so on and so forth." And I was working at Sam Goody's for a while, for a number of years, managing one of their stores. And they had a convention. And I came across, I'm trying to think of his name. He was the guitarist for Anthrax. Oh man, I'm sorry, man. I can't remember your name. Anyway, I saw him down there, and I knew that he knew Steve. And I said, "Hey, we have a mutual acquaintance, Steve Martin, blah, 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 blah." And he gives me his email address. And I call Steve out of the blue, and he goes, "Holy shit." I go, "Steve, what are you doing?" And Steve is now promoting bands. And some of the people that he has is like Smashing Pumpkins.
Wow.
Beck. He just a few years ago, he now works with Paul McCartney.
Wow.
And he worked with Bowie on the last album that he did. Yeah.
Jeez.
And yeah, it's unbelievable. Foo Fighters. He deals with some of the biggest names in the industry today.
All from riding his bike from Smithtown to
the record stop.
Isn't that amazing?
And when I was up in New York, I went to see him, and he stopped everything. I went to go to his office. He's got like 4 or 5 secretaries. So, "Who are you?" "I'm here to see Steve." And Steve comes out, gives me a big hug, and he goes, "Hold all my calls." We bullshitted for about 2.5 hours.
Wow.
And the first thing out of my mouth is, "How the hell did you land Paul McCartney?" It's like, and he told me, "What incredible, absolutely incredible."
Yeah. So you knew back then that this kid had something. That's fun.
Oh yeah. It's like there was a little spark there. When he went to California, he went out there to meet his grandfather. When he came back, he was changed. And his grandfather worked for RCA, but when he came back, he was a changed person. And I just knew it. Great kid. Great kid. Steve, you're seeing this. I know you're going to watch this, Steve. So I mentioned you, buddy.
Yeah,
Okay.
you could share this
Nasty
with
little man.
all those people. What about the Ears group? Remember Ears? John
Here,
Delgazy,
John Del Gazo, yes.
Steve
Yeah.
Boyle, and John Gamble.
Yep.
I'm
They were
remembering
supposed to be.
they're all on
They,
Facebook.
they wanted to be the very first single on Death.
Uh-huh.
And, I wanted to do the Death to Disco single because I knew it was a sure thing. I'm sorry, it was a sure thing.
Mhm.
And they had a song called Ringmaster. I can't believe I still remember this.
Wow.
And it was recorded from Sachem High School because they played there. And they
I
recorded
was at
it
the
live.
Sachem High School show. I was
Okay.
there.
Yes. Oh, you were? Okay.
I was
And they
there.
recorded it. And I wanted
I
them
remember
to
that.
turn around. I wanted a studio version of it. And
Mhm.
they wanted, Steve, who was the leader of the band, wanted, no, let's use this. And it's like, do the studio, it'd be much better. And I held on to the reins and I said, no, I'm putting out Death to Disco, do a studio version.
Mhm.
And which I still think they should have done.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. What are you gonna do? But I also remember the classic concert, the Death tour at the Watermill.
oh yes. Yeah. Oh
With the
yeah.
holy sheets. And I think everything was banned. I think you banned.
Oh, we
any
were
musical
definitely
act.
banned from there. They did not want us back.
That was something.
It's like, I think that we were the first and only concert I think
Yes.
ever had. It's like, it's like that was it, man.
That was over the top. I remember
Yep,
Jimmy
Jeff
like
Gilman.
throwing ashtrays at people, like emptying the
Yeah.
ashtrays on people's heads. It was
Hey, it was punk.
full on punk rock. The holy
Yeah.
sheets. The holy
holy-
sheets came out
Okay,
all in
interesting
sheets.
about the Holy Sheets. Mark Kramer. You've heard of Shimmy Disc?
Yeah,
Mark Kramer, Holy Sheets.
the holy sheets. They
He
came out
was
in
in
full
that band.
sheets. Full
Well,
sheets.
he was in that band.
It was
Mark
like weird
Kramer.
music. It was like the Residents. It sounded like the Residents.
Yes. Mark was into a lot of jazz type stuff.
Yeah, it was very jazzy.
Yeah, he was into a lot of jazz type stuff. And at first he didn't want to accept the punk stuff whatsoever.
Right.
And it took a while for him to come around. And finally he turned around. I guess he turned around and said, wow, this stuff is great.
Yeah.
And came out with some, he started Shimmy Disc and came out with some brilliant stuff on Shimmy Disc, which is incredible. But he was another guy that used to come into record stop.
All the time. Yeah. And I remember Herman. Herman was another guy that was there
Yeah.
all the time. Herman and
Yes.
who else do I remember? I remember everybody. Oh, who was that band? The Grapplers? The Grapplers? Who was in that band? Ray.
Oh, The Lust.
The Lust. That's what I'm thinking of.
Lust.
The
The
Lust.
Lust. I
It
was
was
originally part of the band in the early days with Ray and Matt.
Ray and
we had
Matt.
a bass, Ray and Matt finish, and then we had a
Yes.
guy. His name was Craig. I can't remember his last name.
Yeah.
And I didn't show up for a rehearsal one night, and this is in my mom's basement.
Mm.
And he got upset. He was drinking, and then he turned around and took a glass bottle and slashed his wrist
Oh my
down in the
God.
basement. And they had to rush him to the hospital. I think he went to Smithtown General, and he started throwing bedpans at the nurses.
Punk rock.
It's like, that was Craig. He was nuts.
Wow.
We did
The
some
Lust.
recording together. I remember we were finishing up one song, and we're right down to the end of it. And he hits the last bass note, and you see his eyes go back in his head go back, and he fell over one of the speakers in the recording studio. It was at Barry's recording studio, and blew out the speaker, which I ended up paying for.
Wow.
but
Wow.
that was Craig, great bass player, but he was like our version of Sid Vicious.
Yeah, exactly. Sid Vicious. Oh my God. Those were some crazy times.
Crazy days.
Yeah, and still crazy. So what are you doing now? You're a grandfather? You have just one grandson?
I have one. I have 5 grandkids.
Oh,
Now wait a minute. Now that's weird. I know it's weird. I have one grandson. All the rest are adopted, so to
Oh,
speak. So to
okay.
speak. Okay. So there's my grandson Gabriel, and then there's Julian. There's Jason. I'm missing some here. There's Helena. Who else am I missing? Oh, and Damien. And Damien. Okay. So yeah, 5. I think one of them is inside the other room right now. Like, she's visiting Mima. You know.
That's nice. That's
All right.
nice. And Iris is doing well. Everybody's healthy. Everybody's doing good.
Iris is doing well.
Good.
Bruce is doing well. The record stop
Yeah.
is still in existence up in Patchogue.
I know his son is running it.
Yes, his son is running it, and it looks beautiful.
Yeah.
I have the toilet seat.
The stiff toilet seat.
I still have the stiff toilet seat. I have it here in Florida. Bruce opened another record stop in Charleston. I think
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah,
North
not
Carolina.
Charleston, Charlottesville.
Charlottesville.
Yeah, and he's doing well.
Good.
Like I say, we're all doing pretty good. I mean, I myself had a little bit bout with cancer in my esophagus, but everything's up, doing good.
Thank God for that.
And so, I've been through no chemo or anything like that. So
Good,
I'm lucky. I'm
thank
very, very lucky.
Good.
I'm blessed. So otherwise doing all right.
Good. So that's great. So this was phenomenal. Anything? Oh, I gotta ask you something. Now, is Death
Sure.
Records? Is Death Records still? Are you still doing anything? Or you just kind of?
Like I say, it's a hobby. The last thing we put out was "Leave My Pussy Alone" by Jimmy Lumia and Jane County, or Jane County and Jimmy Lumia. There's a duet. They each do it individually. I just so happen to have
There it is.
There it is, right here.
Jane County and Jimmy Lumia. Leave My Pussy Alone.
Yeah, so
that's great. I love the label.
You'll be seeing more of those on eBay. Okay, I'm going to start like a little eBay store. We did start up Death again, and it's not like it once was, where like it was so much easier. Today, government wants so much. I said, like, Florida government, we want this, we want that. Just for me to keep the label alive every month, they go, did anything change? I'll go, no, nothing changed. They say, okay, that'll be $150, please. Crazy, and then if I sell it here in Florida, I do a lot of mail order with the stuff. Most of the stuff, it's bigger in Europe. Okay, I sell a lot of stuff overseas, which makes it nice and easy. Here, the taxation just in Florida, if I sell anything in a different county, it's a different tax rate.
Yeah.
And it's crazy. It's absolutely ludicrous, and I wanted it to be fun.
Right. You want to take the business out of it. You want all the fun and creativity.
Yeah, that's what it was all about. It was to be fun, maybe make a little money here to feed off my addiction. But check on eBay, and that single will be back up on there very shortly.
Oh, good.
Okay,
that's good. All right. Well, I can't think of anything else I wanted to talk about. We did lose Mad Jim this year. That was sad last year.
That was sad.
To MS. I did get to see him, so that was good, a few months before. And he remembered a lot of stuff that I forgot about, because we used to go to concerts all the time.
I'm surprised you remembered some stuff.
He was sharp. I was surprised too. But, you remember Jim. He was crazy.
Oh, can't forget him.
Yeah, he was the one unique guy.
We had I remember the party that we had at my house, and we ended up going to the bathroom in one of the dresser drawers.
The funniest story I remember with you is you had an uncle who was gay. Who was the uncle? Was he your uncle?
He was bi. He's bisexual. Okay. That was Eddie, Crazy Eddie.
Crazy Eddie, that's right. Eddie. And him and Jimmy.
Crazy Eddie, he's got cancer. He's well. Well, I shouldn't say he's well. He's we hospice came over and they put a bed inside his house. He doesn't live too far away from me, so he's got bad cancer. And
I'm sorry.
He doesn't have that long, but he's in good spirits.
The only reason why I bring it up is I remember we were at a party at your house and Jim disappeared. And I was like, where'd Jimmy go? Yeah. And he came back. I was like, where'd you go? He goes, I was with Eddie. We were hanging out. And you came up to me and said, does he know Eddie's gay? And I told him he's gay. He freaked out. He thought he was going to try to hit on him. It was like, it's fine. Don't worry about
it. I would have to warn.
It was a different time back then.
He would hit on people. And they freak out and they come, what's going on? He's cool. No, he's not.
It
Just
was a
because he's
different
gay
time. It was a
doesn't mean that he's going to jump on top of you.
right, 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 right.
He's a person like everybody else,
I
and
know.
people didn't realize. They don't. They back
Well,
then.
back then we didn't think like
Yeah,
that.
well,
You
back
just,
then it's like people didn't realize that. It's like,
yeah,
calm
you didn't
down,
know any gay
man.
people, and if somebody was gay, you'd be like immediately afraid of them, like they're
Yeah,
going to do something to
yeah.
you, going to be gay
It's
on
like,
you. No, they're not. It's fine.
yeah,
You're not that attractive. Don't worry
yeah.
about
Trust me, he will not like you one
it. He
bit.
doesn't. He's not going to like you. He
You're
likes
too
good
ugly.
looking. He likes good looking guys.
Yeah.
So I just remember that
They
story, how
they
freaked
have
out he
more
was.
taste than that. Gay
Yeah,
people have more taste than that.
yeah,
Trust me,
exactly.
they definitely don't want you.
Don't flatter yourself. It's not about that. It's a funny story
Uh,
I remember. But yeah, we had some incredible times. Going to your Halloween parties were amazing. Do you still do that? You still do the crazy Halloween parties? And
oh my God.
yeah,
When I left Goodies, I was bored stiff. You know me, I had to have something to do.
of course.
So I started building my very own cemetery, and it overtook my yard. I had 10-foot monuments,
Oh my God.
lighting. Uh, I put the whole thing up. I get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, put the whole thing up by 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and the whole thing would come down at midnight.
Oh my God.
And it was a full-blown cemetery. We would have 500 kids here.
Wow.
It was sick. It was totally sick. And my neighbors would join in, and people turn around, why do you do this one night? And I turn around and I said, well, it's because the dead only walk one day a year. You know? And they took it like that. And people were amazed because some kid was crying out there. They didn't want to come up. And I was in this full-blown, this huge top hat and stuff. And I do this like Zachary voice, oh, come here, little youngin, come here, come here. Come on, like, and the kid would grab my hand and walk up with me, and the parents would be sitting there, how the hell did he do that? You know?
That's great.
We did that for almost 10 years
Wow.
until
Wow.
finally I said, I can't do this anymore. It's like, it's taking its toll.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
gave my whole cemetery to charity, this one place that does a Halloween thing
Yeah.
for I think it's for the handicapped.
Oh,
So,
that's nice. That's nice.
so,
Okay, I'm going to end on this note because this is something
okay.
I'll never forget about you. When I would come to Record Stop every Thursday, and then certainly in the all night sales, I would always make sure to leave with a stack of records. And you said to me once, every time you come in here, you don't have to buy something every time
That's
you
right. I
come in.
remember telling you that.
And I said, yes, I do. Because you didn't understand my addiction. It had nothing to do with
Like,
you. I wasn't trying to be nice.
I had the very
I
same
had a
addiction.
problem.
You had a problem. One day, Bruce is paying me,
Yeah.
and there was all this stuff, and it's like, and Bruce paid me well.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, okay, he says, okay, I would take records home, and he would just take it off. Okay, I'll take it off my pay.
Right.
So one day he goes, Jimmy, come here. So I go, he goes, hold out your hand. He places a quarter in my hand. He goes, that's what's left of your pay. True story.
We were
True
addicted.
story.
We were addicted.
Yeah.
It was like a drug. I mean, and I would buy stuff and get home and play it and go, why did I buy this? I don't even like it. But it's like it was the thrill of the impulse.
Yes,
I
all that
understand
stuff.
like women who have shopaholics. We were rockaholics.
Yeah.
That's what we were. And
Yeah.
it was
My
wonderful.
living room is like a wall. There
Yeah.
is a wall of CDs,
Wow.
a whole wall. And then underneath there's albums, and there's 45, but it takes up one. I had a rack built on
Yeah.
the wall, a giant wall rack, and there's got to be 2,000 CDs, maybe.
Wow. Well, I remember in my bedroom where I lived at home, I had an actual display from Record World that they threw out because they were getting new,
Right.
and I
Yeah.
took it home. It was like a record store. Like you went in and
Right.
had all the albums, and
Yes.
I definitely had over 1,000. I'm not sure even know
Yeah.
how many I had, but
Yeah.
I sold a lot of them. But that's what happens. But
Yeah.
I still got a lot of 45s left. I have like old buttons left. Remember, you used to make the buttons, the button machine.
Yes. Oh my God. Yes.
Used to
Yeah.
make
So
buttons.
we went crazy. I did a convention in Washington, D.C.,
Mm.
a record convention there, and they we were making buttons like hand over fist,
Mm,
and they didn't know what bootlegs were. They never saw bootlegs before,
mm.
and I made a killing there on bootlegs. Let me tell you.
Yeah, you had a lot of bootlegs. You had bootlegs and you had imports, and
Yeah.
that was wild. Those are great
It's a
times.
it's a great store. It's still a great store.
Yeah,
Some of the things I asked Bruce for something. I called him up about a month ago. I wanted the vernacular cover of the new Rob Zombie album,
yeah.
and sure enough, he showed up on my doorstep. That he's the man.
Oh, he is the man.
Still the
We
man.
forgot to talk about Michael. Michael Macarone has
Michael
carried on.
Macaroni. Yeah, yeah.
He's down in Utah now, and he has a
In
record
Utah with a
store.
record store.
And he had Reckless Eric performing at his record
Yes, I
store.
saw that. That was
I saw
awesome.
that. I was like,
That
"What,
was
Reckless
awesome.
Eric?"
I was like, oh my God. I've been waiting for him to come down here to play Florida. He still hasn't played Florida
I
yet.
love it. And you know, and
Yeah.
he has a wonderful wife, and I think every Sunday they get together and they play some songs and they put it on their Facebook. I don't know if you noticed, but
I've
it's
seen a few
nice,
of them. It's like, yeah, it's like,
you
you know,
know, which is
I,
something
I,
Robert Fripp does. Robert Fripp does that with his
yes,
wife
those are
now
great.
every
Those are
Sunday.
great. Him and his wife. Yeah, Toya. Freaking Toya. It's awesome. Yeah.
Toya. And she comes out with her breast nipples are like they're like you, Nipo. She's like Nipo.
Yeah.
Her nipples are. Somebody wrote
They
it's
soak
Toya's.
her in cold water first. That's what.
Somebody wrote Toya's greatest tits. I love that one.
Iris has been going, why don't we go downtown? Because we have a beautiful downtown. It's finally, after 30 years, it's opened up.
Yeah.
Really nice. And she goes, why don't we open a record store there? I'm like,
You
I
want
don't
to
know.
keep your money.
Yeah, it's
Hey,
like,
you never know. If vinyl's coming back, it's a strong
it is.
comeback.
It is coming back.
It's
You know?
hilarious. I go into like Barnes and Noble and I see like Led Zeppelin 4 for $25. I'm like,
Yes.
$25?
Yeah.
I bought this for
Incredible.
$3.99. What is this
Yeah.
crap?
Remember that? Yeah, it's incredible. I got my grandson. I bought him a turntable.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, it's like, check on my Facebook page. He's showing it off.
Oh, is
Look,
he
it's got
really?
a radio. It's got this. It's like, he was so excited when he ripped it open. At first, he's looking at it like, what the hell is this? And he turned around the box around and he goes, I got a record player. I got a freaking record player. And he's going crazy. 9 years old.
See that the addiction has been passed on. See what you created?
Yeah. No, I started him out with 3 Beatle albums.
There you go.
A Kiss album, of course, because that's
Kiss a lot.
perfect. Kiss album and the White Stripes.
The White Stripes. I love the White Stripes.
So do I.
Yeah.
That I figured is a little of everything in there, from the blues to Zeppelin is right inside.
Yeah, the White Stripes are kind of a hodgepodge of a lot of different great things, but they did it right.
Yep.
Yeah, Jack White and Meg White.
Yep.
Are they brother and sister? What are they?
I heard that they were married and then
they were married.
Divorced. Yeah, that's what I heard.
They were not brother and sister, unless they were brother and sister and they were married. Who knows? These days, you don't know. All right. Jimmy, I got to go, Nipo.
Okay, Stevie, GB.
This was fun, wasn't it?
It was fun. It was fun.
I walked down memory lane, and God bless you. I'm glad you're doing well health-wise and everyone's healthy.
Yeah, everybody's
we
healthy.
got through this without mentioning the C word, COVID.
You just did.
I just did now.
You just did.
See what I did?
Saying that the C word, so I knew I'm not going to say the C word.
Don't say the C word.
I'm not. But
so I'm a comedian. You know I'm a comedian, right? You know that.
Yes, of course. Of course. I love the garage door joke.
Oh, you watched it?
I love that joke.
People love that joke. And that came to me by accident. That came to me by accident because it was true, because my mother-in-law's really in her 80s. And my wife said, we should get her that because she lives alone. It's a true story. And I said, how much is it? She said, it's $35 a month. I said, well, what if she doesn't fall? Then we're getting ripped off. And I was like, I'm writing a joke right now. And then I said, why don't we put the garage door opener around her neck? And I actually said that to my wife. And she said, that's really funny. And I was like, that is funny. And then
very funny.
I wrote a bit.
Very funny.
Yeah.
That was a brilliant joke, man. When I heard that, I had tears coming out of my eyes. It was a great joke.
It's one of my killers. People really enjoy that one. I did write one joke for COVID. You ready? My COVID joke.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
I notice now with the mask, I'm going in stores and I look at women and I'm noticing that the nose is the new cleavage. Right? Because I'm looking, I'm like, what's under there? What does that nose look like? Nipo, I'm hoping for a nostril slip at this point in my life.
Oh my God.
Just one slip in a nostril. And last week a woman caught me looking and she said, excuse me, sir, my breasts are down here.
Very good. That's very good.
That's my little
That's funny.
bit of, I haven't been
I
able
go
to
to
try
work.
it live yet,
I don't have to shave. That's
you know?
well, think of it with
Oh,
the
because
mask.
of the
It's
mask.
like, yeah, the mask. It's like I wear it all day, so it's like I don't have to shave. It's
It
like
covers up all the
know,
zits and the shade.
it's like
You don't have to brush your teeth anymore, nothing.
you don't got to worry about plucking your nose hairs. You're fine, man. It's like that's it.
You're hiding it.
It's like, mask. It's like
One of these
works.
days we're gonna pull off the mask and we're gonna look like that Twilight Zone episode. Remember with the lady with the bandages?
Oh yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
she's beautiful and they're all ugly.
If we can, unless we pull it off and it's the hairs in are now interwoven into the fabric of the mask, trying to rip it off your face.
All I can say is Devo was right. Remember de-evolution?
Yes. Oh, definitely. Yep.
They were right. It happened. And it
Yep.
happened quicker than we thought it would, but
You
we've
know,
reached de-evolution.
they actually got that. That was stolen. Ooh. I came across, I forgot who sent it to me, something from the 1930s.
Oh, I've heard this too. My nephew was telling me it was a whole
Yeah,
theory.
this whole de-evolution thing.
Yeah.
And I guess, it says de-evolved, we're de-evolving, something from the 1930s. It's like,
Yeah. Yeah. They just
and
took the whole
I turned
concept.
around and I said, but they did it brilliantly,
Oh,
like,
genius. They're
yeah, it was
geniuses.
absolute genius.
I
You
love
know,
that band.
yeah,
Seen
me
them
too.
live a bunch of times. They're one of my
Me too.
favorites. They're
Yeah.
so fun.
Bottom line.
Bottom line, did we go together?
I think we were at two different shows.
Because they
This is the bomb
appeared on
scare.
Saturday Night
It
Live
was
and like,
it was the bomb scare, right?
yes,
Yes. Yes. The
I
bomb
thought
scare.
we might have been there together. I remember they were at Saturday Night Live, and the next night they were at the Bottom Line, and the place
Right.
was jammed. You couldn't even move.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. My funniest Bottom Line story is when I went to see the Roaches. Remember the Roaches, the
Oh,
singing
of
group?
course. Yeah. Yeah.
We went to see them, and we get there, and there was a line. Because remember the Bottom Line, you didn't buy tickets, you had to wait online.
Right.
The line was like 6 blocks long, and I'm like, what the hell? Why are the Roaches so popular? They had like one album. Nobody knows the Roaches. What had happened was the Rolling Stones were touring around under different names. And one
Names.
of the names they were using was the Cockroaches. So everybody thought the Rolling Stones were going to be there.
You know what happened? I got a story for that. Here we
Yeah.
go. Bruce. He was
Yeah.
a big Stone fan. Record stop story
Oh,
here,
yeah.
folks. He was a big Rolling Stones fan. Still is to this day.
Of course.
Somebody got him tickets. One of the distributors say, look, the Stones are playing under a different name at this place. Your name's at the door. Okay. He was trying to get a hold of me. No cell phones back then.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So I get to the store, regular time, 1:00. I get to the store and there's a sign on the store. It says, Jimmy, tried to get a hold of you. Going to see the Stones. Sorry.
Did he really see them?
Yeah. He went to see them. And he got an extra ticket. He gave it to some girl that was at the door.
Oh, man.
And so otherwise, he was trying to get a hold of me, but back then, there was no
Wow.
cell.
That's what they used to do. They used to appear in little tiny clubs
Yep.
under names
Yep.
like the Cockroaches
Yep.
was one of them, and I forgot what there was. The Winos, the Expensive Winos was one of them, which turned out to be Keith Richards actually did come up with a band called the Expensive Winos,
Yeah.
but that was one of those fake names that the Stones would use to like have little warm up shows, and they did it. They did do the Bottom Line, believe it or
Yeah.
not.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's amazing. What
Yeah.
shows?
A lot of those stars like that did that. Little rock stars did like that. It was like Dr. Winston O'Boogie, Lennon.
Yeah, that was John Lennon. Yeah.
Who was it? Was it Herman? Called me, messaged me last night and about the Bonzo Dog Band that
Yeah.
Paul McCartney produced on the Urban Spaceman for them under a different name.
I didn't know
And he
that.
know that something Apollo or something. I forgot what the name was, but yeah, he
I
produced
love
that.
the Bonzos. We lost Neil Innes a couple of years ago.
Oh,
Too.
he's
That was
brilliant,
sad.
man. I know.
Another
Brilliant.
genius. Another genius.
He was a genius.
Such
Oh
funny stuff.
God.
Ah,
Vivian Stanshell, another genius.
what a nutbag that guy was.
Oh no, but still he was brilliant.
He used to hang out with Keith Moon. They were dressed like Nazis
Yes.
and go into hotels dressed like Nazis. Just like completely out of their minds.
I know. They were great. That's what made him great. Saw Henry Rollinston, and I used to love some of the lines. It's like he had with cheekbones a little higher than his mother's. They appeared as twin humps on the top of his head. Who comes up with this shit? Yeah.
Oh, they were great. I still have that History of the Bonzos album, and
Yeah, that's a brilliant album. I love that album.
it's so good. It's so good.
Little dated, but still good. Funny
Oh,
stuff.
it's still great. It's still great. It's like it's Monty Python and the Kinks. It's like they
Yeah.
combine the two great things.
Yeah.
How could you go wrong? All right, Jim, Nipo, I got to run.
Steve,
This
thank
has
you.
been amazing. I will
It's
post
fun.
this.
It's good. Yeah, it's like we should do this more often, just for the
We
hell of
should
it.
just for
Yeah,
the hell of it, you know. Exactly. We should, and we will. So listen,
All right.
this was awesome. I'm going to post this, and so everybody else can watch it, and you can share it if you like.
All
which I'm
righty.
sure you will. And Nipo, Record Stop, the
GB,
legendary Death Records, the whole thing. Thanks for coming on, buddy.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right.